Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your visiting LOFA today, and welcome all of you from University of Seoul and Seoul National University. My name is Kim Jae-young, and I'm working as a general manager at LOFA, and I joined here 2022. Before joining LOFA, I worked at KDI PMEC, you might heard about it, for 20 years in the field of public investment management and PPP project. And with Professor Park Hyun at the University of Seoul and Professor Go Gil-gon at Seoul National University. At the time, two professors were my colleagues, close colleagues, and good mentors to me. So it's a great pleasure for me to have a chance of this presentation today to the students from both schools. And yes, the topic of my presentation is the introduction of local government PIM system. PIM means Public Investment Management, focusing on project appraisal and selection process. I think, are you familiar with the term PIM? Yeah, you might have already learned or you will learn about this subject in your coursework. My subject is almost the same, but by the way, what you have learned is maybe about the central government process. But in Korea, we have a little different PIM system for local government level. So today, I want to focus and introduce about PIM system, focusing on the local government level. Okay, let me start my presentation. This presentation consists of 5 chapters, from introduction to the implication of the system in Korea. This slide shows why we need to manage the public investment carefully about economic and social infrastructures. As you know well, infrastructure improves national economic growth and the quality of your life. Therefore, many countries, especially developing countries, are trying to provide infrastructure. By the way, most of infrastructure is provided by public sector, including PPP, right? Is it right in your countries? Yeah. And why does public sector provide infrastructure, not private sector? As you know, in economic theory, it's because of the market failure. There is a market failure problem in the supply of infrastructure. But I'm not going to discuss about market failure today. I want to focus on the 2 different causes. The first is poke barrel politics, and the second is optimism bias. Professor Bae already mentioned about poke barrel bias, and optimism bias is another thing. Have you ever heard about optimism bias? It's a tendency to overestimate the benefit or demand of the project and underestimate the cost of the project to implement the project. Regarding to the optimism bias, Bent Flevier, one of the most famous research about this subject, he studied and he found cost overruns and demand overestimations are very common problems in large-scale projects around the world. And the bankruptcy of Yubari City in Japan in 2007 is a kind of well-known case that when local government invests in a project without a careful consideration of feasibility study, it can lead to a serious budget waste and even bankruptcy. In Korea, we also have experienced poke barrel politics and optimism bias problems. And this slide shows our response to those issues in the late 1990s. But as I will leave this part in later, let me skip this slide. Okay, the next is why we need to build and improve the PIM system. Yeah, have you ever seen these figures? This figure is from the study of IMF in 2019. The IMF assessed the PIM system for countries and scored 15 key process from planning to implementation and monitoring steps. The outer blue line is the score of the institutional design, and the inner red line is the score of effectiveness. It means the practical implementation. You can see the practical implementation score is much lower than the institutional design. It means there is room to improve when you about the implementation, practical implementation in PIM system. Even though you established the institutional designs well, but there is some room to improve when you implement and conduct the PIM system. And which one is lowest? You can see the number 4, project appraisal, and 10, project selection step is the lowest. Yeah. It means we need to focus and improve this part, these steps most. This slide is also from the IMF study, and it shows losses from poor infrastructure governance. According to the study by the IMF, low-income development countries, they lose about 40% of their investment returns. It's because of the inefficiencies in their PIM system. Even advanced economies, they also lose about 13% of investment returns. Yes, it's one of the reasons why we need to build, and we should build and improve a sound and good governance for project management. Yeah, according to the IMF study, there is a lot of room for improvement in the project appraisal and project selection, I told you before. Based on this background, I believe that our institutional design and practical experience about PIM system could be a valuable benchmark for developing countries and you. Maybe this is one of the reasons why some of you choose Korea as your master degree study, right? Yeah. Because our case is one of the best practice in the world. Okay, chapter 2 is institutionalization and development of PIM system in Korea. I summarized our history of the system since the 1960s, and shortly, there are 3 key points. The first is that we didn't have enough domestic capacity at first in 1960s, so we initiated PIM system with the support of international organizations such as World Bank at first. And the second is that the budget authority and the RIME ministry competed with each other to take the ownership of PIM system, particularly about the project appraisal and project selection process. In Korea, budget authority have more power than RIME ministry. So in Korea, budget authority have the ownership of PIM system. But I think for developing countries, it's already different, right? Yeah, and the third is the PFS system. I think you already heard about it. Introduced in 1999 for central government project. PFS has become a notable milestone as an ex-ante project appraisal process. This slide shows the expansion of ex-ante project appraisal process in Korea. Based on the success of the PFS in 1999, the type of the project expanded to IT, R&D, and social welfare project. And the scope of the project also expanded from central government project to public and private partnership project in 2005 and state-owned enterprise project in 2011 and local government project in 2014. There is no shortcut to bypass any kind of ex-ante project appraisal system nowadays. We build a comprehensive and integrated PIM system. Do you have any question about this slide? Okay, this slide shows the more detail about the feasibility study for local government project. It's a little different from central government PFS system. We introduced this feasibility study for local government project in 2014 because there were some issues. At the time, there was no designated feasibility study agency like KDI PMAC for PFS. Each local government conducted PFS independently. So some of local government, they didn't conduct feasibility study at all. And also, many of the government applied different criteria and methodologies for each project while they study the feasibility of the project. To address this problem, we established the first feasibility study agency, like KDI PMAC, REMAC in 2014, and ROMAC, my company, was designated as a second feasibility study agency in LOFA in 2021. Yeah. LOFA is one of the designated feasibility study agency for local government feasibility study project. Chapter 3 is about the project appraisal and selection system for local government project. This diagram shows the process of local government project in Korea from planning to budgeting and implementing. Feasibility study is to investigate the social economic impact and political and policy analysis of the project. And investment appraisal is to decide whether to approve the project or not. It's a kind of project screening stage. Investor appraisal is corresponds to the project screening process. At the IMF, World Bank, and IMF's classification. It corresponds to these project selection steps. This slide shows the type of project we classify for local government project selection. In Korea, we classify local government projects into 6 types for project screening process. The first is general investment project, which is most popular. And the second is culture and sport facilities. And third is event project, exhibition halls, government buildings, and guarantees for investment. It's because the reason why we classify this type is the request document and screening authorities, it differs depending on the project type and funding source. And we also include these government guarantees in public investment category because even though it doesn't require any budget at first, but these guarantees may result in fiscal burden in the future if the project collapses or there occurs some problems. It's not only in Korea. As you see in these figures, World Bank also included this type of guarantees into public investment category. And this slide is about the project screening authorities. At first, each local government, they screen the project by themselves. They did a self-project appraisal system, but since 1995, local government projects have divided into 2 groups. The one is self-screening, and another is the higher level authority commission screening. It depends on the type and scale of the project. For smaller project, local government screen the project by themselves, but the large-scale project, usually higher level authority screen the project of their local government. And this is the project screening criteria. We consider quantitative and qualitative factors, and the criteria are predefined by regulations and feasibility study manuals. When local government submit the project screening request documents, the committee members check the necessity and feasibility of the project for each evaluation factor, like this. And this slide shows project screening result. From 2017 to 2021, the MOIS, Ministry of Interior and Safety, they reviewed about 470 projects annually, and about 72% of the projects were approved as feasible for implementation. About 30% of the project was approved non-feasible. Chapter 4 is about the feasibility study of local government project. This slide shows the basic process of the study. Each local government, they submit the feasibility study request to higher level authorities, and MOIS, Ministry of Interior and Safety, they collect all of these requests. And then MOIS requests the feasibility study to a designated agency, such as LOMEC and LIMEC, to conduct the feasibility study. And then LOMEC and LIMEC, feasibility study agency, they review the details of the project plan and decide whether to launch the project, to start the feasibility study or not. If the details of the project plan are not sufficient and there are something to need to correct or improve, the feasibility study request may be rejected and should submit again later. After the study is completed, the final report is submitted to MOIS and to the local government. A feasibility study reports are used as a basic reference during the project screening system. At this time, this process. This slide shows the request form for the feasibility study. It's for local government who should prepare a project overview, cost calculation, details, and attachment documents carefully. Project overview include purpose and history of the project, and sketch plans such as project site location, project scale, cost, and funding plans. If the these contents and details of this document is insufficient, a feasibility study request may be rejected. This is the main contents while we study during the feasibility study. I think it might be almost the same in other countries. We estimate the demand and cost of the project first, and then we analyze economic and financial impact, and finally we analyze political and policy analysis. Okay. Next is the comparison of feasibility study and PFS, preliminary feasibility study. In Korea, we have two different ex-ante project appraisal systems, FS under the Local Finance Act and PFS under the National Finance Act. The former, FS, is for local government project, and the latter, PFS, is for central government project. Also, the names are different, but the contents and the methodologies are almost the same. But the only difference is whether the report includes the overall feasibility of the project or not. In PFS, have you ever heard about AHP score? Yeah. Professor Park and Professor Go, they introduced AHP methodology into PFS system in 2001 in KDI. Yeah. So you might already heard about AHP from them. In PFS, the overall feasibility of the project is explicitly presented in the report through AHP score. If the score is higher than 0.5, it means it's feasible to implement the project. However, in feasibility study, we just describe the cost and demand estimate and economic impact. We didn't judge it need to implement the project or not. It depends on the committee. It's the role of investment appraisal committee who reviews the report and decide whether to approve the project or not. So it's divided into two groups. For PFS, it's included in the report, but in local government project, the judgment part is divided from the report. Of course, I think it's hard to say which is better because each system has its pros and cons. While I was studying in KDI, I thought HP is a good system, but after I joined here, I thought it's another good way to, one of the good systems to judge the project because both has pros and cons. Yeah. If you have any question about this, okay, let's talk about this in the later. Okay, lastly, I'd like to share our experience and implication with you. The first is the establishment of an integrated PIM system. The PFS was a successful ex-ante project appraisal process, as well as a stepping stone of integrated PIM system. And the role of this ex-ante process expanded into midterm evaluation and post-evaluation. And the second is an expansion of the project type and scope of the PIM system. I already mentioned about it before. Yeah, the third implication is the change in the ownership of project appraiser. PFS is controlled by budget authority, as I mentioned already, and conducted by an independent agency such as KDI PMAP. After we introduced PFS in 1999, the percentage of the project found to be feasible was only 47%. These results are quite remarkable compared to the previous feasibility study conducted by line ministries. At the time. Among 33 projects, only one project was found non-feasible at the time. 32 projects was found to feasible. So you can get some lessons that it's very important to establish a good governance and to enhance the neutrality and objectivity of the PIM system. Okay, the first implication is the designation of a specialized feasibility study organization. Currently, the PIM system is managed by the central government, such as MOEF, Ministry of Economic and Finance, and MOIS, but the ex-ante feasibility study is conducted by independent organizations, such as our LOMEC and KDI PMAC. These independent agencies are trying to enhance the objectivity and transparency of the feasibility study. And the last implication is the database and models for project appraisal. As you know, the more reliable the data, the more accurate result you can get, you can have. So once sound governance is established, I think the next step is to develop a database and models to increase the accuracy of the result. This is an example of traffic count data to check transport demand analysis. This slide shows the three patterns, origin to and destination data. It shows how many people move from one point to another place. To make this database, we need to survey people's movement. We started to build this database since 1998 for nationwide. And for Seoul metropolitan area, it might be early 1990s. And this is an example of traffic count data to check the accuracy of travel demand model. We have started to investigate the traffic count every 5 to 10 kilometers for main highway. We have started to build this database since 1955, but I think it's expanded from 1980s. So far, it required a lot of budget and time to build this kind of database. However, nowadays, we can get a database more easily using a big data, like mobile phone data. Let me share some videos. This video shows the trip movement to Seoul CBD area for 24 hours. In the morning peak, people move in to CBD area, and in afternoon, people move out to residential area. It's a kind of trip pattern database created using your mobile phone data from SK Telecom. Okay, this is all I have prepared, and thank you for your listening for a long time. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor, for your wonderful talk. Well, it's very detailed. I will try to ask you a question that is not on the slides. For example, I know that Korea, on the national level and both on the local level, have a lot of strategic objectives for development of the regions. So when you have to do the feasibility study of infrastructure investment, it's not only the economical benefit, I mean, it's the economical benefit that you have to consider, because maybe the return rate is not that big, but it's a strategic investment in a certain area. How do you take that into consideration? What legal limitations or political decisions have been made that to ponder those things that are a bit more subjective or a bit more political than technical?
네, 좋은 질문 감사드리고요. 그 AHP라는 것을 여러분들이 이제 배웠거나 배우게 되면 고려하는 항목들이 경제적 타당성 외에 정책적인 부분들이 이제 포함이 되게 됩니다. 그래서 과거에는 경제적 타당성이 50% 이상 높았다면 현재는 경제적 타당성 비중이 이제 50% 이하가 안 되는 경우가 그 다음에 특히나 지방구 사업에 있어서 로컬 지역에 위치한 사업에 있어서는 경제성보다는 정책적 효과에 대한 고려를 더 많이 하고요. 이런 평가 항목에 대해서는 법적인 건 아니지만 매뉴얼, 가이드라인에 지침화해서 우리가 그걸 고려하고 있고 여기 중앙정부 PFS for Central Government나 우리 FS for Local Government 모두 레걸 베이시스라든지 국가 상위계획과의 어떤 연관성이라든지 장기계획과의 연관성 그리고 이게 사업이 얼마나 이런 정책적으로 필요성이 있느냐 그다음에 주민들이 얼마나 원하느냐 이런 부분들이 사실 숫자로 나타내지는 못하지만 우리가 정책적으로 판단에 고려하는 부분들입니다. 그리고 아까 AHP를 하면서 그러니까 FS와 PFS를 비교하면서 프로스 앤 콘스가 있다고 말씀드렸는데 PFS에서 AHP를 하면 이 파이낸셜 앤 이코노믹에 대한 어떤 정량적인 결과에 많이 영향을 받기가 쉽습니다. 하지만 우리 지방정부, 로컬 거버먼트에 대한 FS에서는 이런 정량적인 지표도 중요하지만 사실 이 사업의 필요성이라든지 다른 정성적인 지표들이 많이 고려되고 있는 측면이 있습니다.
오늘 참석해주신 많은 그 국가에서 오신 그 분들이 이제 각 국가 대표라는 관점에서 한국처럼 그렇게 그 어떤 재정부의 어떤 그 권한이 좀 큰 사례들이 있는지 아니면 그 각 국가들별로 어떤 그 재정부의 그 위상이 어느 정도인지를 한번 궁금해서 한번 여쭤보겠습니다.
My name is John, and I'm sharing the experience from Ghana. So years back, it hasn't been like that. The line ministries used to do project feasibility on themselves, but on that point, we were finding that said that the primary factor was that these line ministries were very subjective. Most of the time, they from their plans and programs, their activities they want to implement, they will actually say that this is feasible and all that. So based on that, the Ministry of Finance now has that, they conducted a study and they came out with that finding that ministries actually favor the projects that they actually want to implement. And at the end of the day, they fair every project, this is feasible and all that. So now we have, based on the implementation of our PFM Act, we are also now enforcing this PIM, ensuring that the Ministry of Finance actually has that power to actually do project feasibility for all projects. So in the case of Ghana, it's really working, and the power actually lies with the Ministry of Finance. Thank you.
하여튼 이 좋은 경험에 대한 공유 감사드리고, 사실 작년에 고길근 교수님이랑 여러분 디벨로핑 컨트리에 대한 제도를 좀 연구를 했었는데, 그때 서울대학교에서 같이 참여해 주신 분이 계시다면 특별히 감사하다는 말씀을 마지막으로 드리고 싶고요. 캄보디아로부터 뭐 파키스탄까지 한 13분이 참여해 주셨던데 감사하다는 말씀 한 번 더 드리고 싶고, 오늘 이 자리에 참석해 주셔서 감사합니다.